Yay.
Welcome to the She Scales podcast. And today I'm super excited to welcome our special guest. Here we have Hayley from Female Financial Coaching. And I'm so freaking excited to welcome you guys and welcome Hayley onto the show. Welcome, Hayley.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, tell me, did I just get your Instagram right?
It's Femme Financial Coaching, but they'll find me. We're not worried.
Okie dokie, all good. I'm super excited that you could join us all the way from LA to the UK right now. Absolutely love that we can just zoom in from any time. For all the listeners that are listening in, I met Hayley about 2, 3 years ago in a
Like,
mastermind that we were in together. And you guys know that I only bring valuable people onto this podcast. Hayley is someone who, ever since we first connected, she's an absolute gem of a human, but also her knowledge and skill set still teaches me to this day. I know she's going to bring so much value to you guys on this podcast. So, welcome, Hayley. It's an honor to have you, and I'm super excited to get stuck in today.
yeah, let's get into it.
So, before we dive into the questions, do you want to do a little intro for you for people that are brand new to you, might not have come across you online yet, but they soon will? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you help people?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Haley. I'm the founder of Femme Financial Coaching, and it's a basically I teach women all about money, and so I teach everything from budgeting, saving, debt management, and then how to grow your wealth through investing, primarily investing in the stock market. And I absolutely love what I do. I think probably most of the listeners who are tuning in run like heart-based businesses. It's like businesses that were on their mind for a long time, and then they're like, I just need to bring this to as many people as I can. For me, that was money. I grew up in a household that didn't really talk about money. Then when I started making money, I didn't know what to do with it. And so that's when I was like, all right, this is obviously a problem. We don't have this education. So that's when I started my business back in 2020 was when I started.
Amazing. That's actually the same year that I started as well. So
Oh,
I've been on
cool.
this journey literally at the same time. It's almost like COVID hit and it just brought such a time of like a real pivotal change to people of just like, well, we can't go on in this way. Let's change the way. And I feel like so many entrepreneurs really like use that time to grow and to start whole new chapters.
I had this thought when COVID was hitting. I'm like, I mean, it was a horrible time for so many people, but it was also a huge time of like rest and reflection. And I had this idea.
Mm,
I'm like, there's gonna be so many businesses that come out of this period where people are just like finally getting the chance to like work on themselves. And that was
yeah.
like the start of like TikTok. Reels wasn't even really a thing yet. And I was like, why can't I have a business that comes out of this? So I started mine as like a side project. I don't know about you. Were you in corporate when you were starting your business, or have you always been entrepreneur?
My corporate job, I'd just come back from my backpacker travels. I'd had my corporate job on a temporary contract. So when COVID hit and there was no like recruitment freeze, no more renewals, so they had to end my contract even though they didn't want to. And so I was like, okay, well, I've suddenly got all of my time and I either get a new sales job or I go all in full time from day one. So
Yep.
I started a business because yeah, it was either that or get a sales job. And I was like, well, we're full-time entrepreneur now.
Yeah, that's funny. Cool.
Awesome. So this kind of touched on the first question I was going to ask you. For anyone that doesn't know you, how did you get started? It sounds like you did this as a side hustle to begin with, and then did it start taking off?
Yeah, so I was a headhunter. So I was a recruiter for 5 or 6 years, and I'm based in Los Angeles. And I started recruiting is like a sales job. So I started making really good money there in commission. So in my mid 20s, I was already crossing like well over 6 figures in income. And I was like, this is amazing. But I'm like, did people just save all their money in a bank account? I had no idea what to do with this money. And so I started doing my own like research into personal finance. I actually got lucky. I went to this random conference in LA and I saw this woman speak about investing and how there's a huge investing gap, especially for women. Women are not investing to the same caliber or the same extent that men are. And so we're having
Mm.
less money later on, leaving us, still like in this wealth gap. And I just had this idea of like, huh, I want to start like talking about this. So 2019, I started bring like teaching the women in my office, and then they would tell their friends. And then when COVID hit, I started posting on Instagram. and I was doing coaching for like $15 an hour. And then I went to $30 an hour. And then, slowly from there. So I never knew that it would be something that would take off the way that it did. I always thought it would be like a little side thing that I did. But then when it started making as much as my full-time job, that's when I was like, I think I could take this full time.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. So you were earning the equivalent of your full-time income
I
just from the
was
side hustle.
I had months that were there and I was like, and that was me working part-time on it. So I had the
Mm.
idea of like, oh, if I did this full attention, I could get there for sure or outpace it. Yep.
Amazing. So you really built up that momentum and you could see, oh, if I go full time in this area, this has really got legs to take off.
Yeah, and at the time I was doing a lot more brand work. So I was working with, and that's something that if any of your audience is interested in, there's a lot of money in like content creation on the brand side too, like promoting different, it was nice in the finance space because there was like different financial services that I could, like different brokerages and stuff like that. So I was doing a
Mm.
lot of that work. Now I do less of that. I really am focused on the coaching piece, but that's what really helped. And then for any of your audience who are still working and trying to build business at the same time, I have a lot of tips of like making that transition. One of my biggest ones was I saved like a cash cushion so that before going into the business full time, I had extra like cash so that when I made that pivot, I wasn't super stressed about the money initially. I could just give myself the space to like get in a new groove and things like that because I'd saved for that transition period, which was really
Yeah,
helpful.
amazing. So that was, I guess, like your emergency fund. You've got that sort of back piece, that reassurer.
Yeah, which was nice. And I recommend anybody who has the capacity to do that. You were kind of thrown into it, but somebody else here who's like thinking, "Oh, can I do this?" That just it just helps, like having that
100%.
buffer.
Yeah, people have asked me, if would you do the same thing again? I'm like, if I had my 9 to 5, I would have started from the beginning, as in built something up first. And
Mm,
also, I'm not, someone with a family or other people relying on my income. If I was a
yes.
mum, for example, would I have given up my full time income and just gone all in? No, because it's a huge level of risk. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
different people, different circumstances.
It's a very good yeah, point that you brought up for sure. I'm the same as you. I don't have kids. It's not something, I mean, I'm not sure if I want them, but that's like a whole other topic we can go into because it's also very unique in our time in
Yeah.
history. It's like we like are the first generation really where it's like not all women have to like in
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
but we can get into that later.
Indeed, indeed, because it's about your level of risk as well. Like I'm happy with a high level of risk because that's my personality type,
Yeah.
but also I'm the only one responsible for me, so I can have that level of risk. If there were
Mhm.
other people relying on me, would I be so risky? Probably not. So
Mhm.
yeah, completely different for different people's circumstances. So for let's get into the good stuff. So for people who where you were saying in your previous job, you'd got a good level of income coming through, but you were still new to investing. If
Yeah.
someone's listening thinking, I don't even know where to start, what are the three things that they should think about before investing their first dollar or pound?
That's a great question. I think it depends on where you're living, because if you're
Mhm.
still working a 9 to 5, most often you have some sort of employer sponsored retirement account. So in the UK, you all have a lot of pensions more than I'm based in the US, so we don't really have as many pensions. So we have like employer sponsored retirement accounts that are actually like a tax beneficial account for us to prioritize. So that's like step one is just understanding what are your options. Where are you based? Do you have a pension? If not, like in the UK, you also have your ISAs. In the US, we have our retirement accounts. So just understanding what's even available
Mm.
for me. And then you want to, from there, being like, how much should I be investing? So, like, how much could you spare? So maybe you start with like $50 or $100 or pounds or whatever, just to get that habit built. And then from there, it's like learning like what is available for me to invest in, like what can I buy? So I think my biggest thing, what I'm trying to say is investing is probably 80-90% just jargon. It's just learning the terms. And then
Mm.
it's not as much math as people may think, and it's not as scary. It's really just like you have to hear these terms a few times to really click. So that's probably it, is understanding what's available for me, how much could I be investing, and then once I'm there and I'm opening up the platform, what do I even put my money in? Like what's available.
Mm. What do you think is one of the things that holds a lot of women back from, like you mentioned, jargon being a thing there. They don't know the lingo. Would you say that's a really big blocker, or there are other things that stop people moving forwards when it comes to
That's a
investing?
good question. I think that it's built up so much bigger in a lot of people's heads than it is.
Mm,
It's like I don't think people are actually scared to invest. I think what kept me from investing for a lot of years is I was like, I don't even know what buttons to click. And like I look
yeah,
at the brokerage and I'm like, where do I go to even buy anything? How do I put in a trade like that? And so I
100%.
made a lot of videos on just like this is literally how you open it, what you click, how do you enter in how much you want to buy,
Yeah.
things like that. I think that demystifying it, also a lot of people don't do it because they think somebody's going to come in and teach them. They're like, oh, my dad or somebody else will come in and teach me. So I'm just going to wait. And it's like, that's not coming. Like nobody's going to care about your
Mm,
money as much as you need to care about it. So it's just like taking that action because no matter how old your audience is, it's just like the earlier you start, that's the piece with investing is time is one of the most impactful pieces. The earlier you start, even if you're not doing it perfectly, like that's what's going to help get you even more returns than just like
yeah,
putting it off because you'll figure it out. And so what I
yeah.
teach in all of my programs is a very simple way to invest. I'm like, these funds have historically done really well. Just get your money moving. We can always like make a more tailored plan for you later down the line. But like in the meantime, get your rinse and repeat like plan, your go-to funds. Very simple
Mm,
investing is like what I want to teach. It's like the basics to get people's money moving. And then
yeah,
once they
yeah,
get that, they can always take it up a notch.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that I would say
It's
that those
absolutely spot on when you said it can be as simple as not knowing what button to press. Because
literally.
for all the listeners here, so I remember inviting Haley to do a masterclass for my sales program. I'd say this was about 2 years ago. It's called Sold Out Sales Academy, and she came in, did a masterclass, and a lot of it was like the why you need to invest and building financial freedom, and a lot of the why it's necessary, especially for women with the wealth gap. And then right at the end, you did I'm going to show you how, and you took us inside your own investing account, and it was like, here's how you put money in, here's how you invest it in a stock, and you just click this button. And like that last 5 minutes, even for me, I was watching it and I was like, oh,
Well,
it's actually so simple. But
yes.
because I think financial, like the financial institutions, and this was for me, who at that time I considered myself reasonably well read, certainly not an expert, but I'd started my journey on learning about like personal financial freedom and things. So I'd read a lot on it, but I hadn't got started and I didn't know where to start. So you just showing, I think it was a Vanguard at the time, and it was
Yeah.
like, here's how you open an account, here's what it looks like inside. It just stripped away so many of the questions that I was like, why haven't I started this? And so yeah, that last 5 minutes of the masterclass just showing here's where the buttons are and here's what you do. I was like, oh. So yeah, can 100% testify. Sometimes, a lot of the times people need the why, but that simple little thing of here's how easy it is to get started. And I found that super, super helpful just seeing the inside because it just took away a lot of the unknowns. And then, like you say, I'd started with maybe like 50, 100, and I just move a little bit in every week. And I could see, well, how is it performing? And what's a good week look like? And what does a bad week look like? And like start to understand, what is the dollar cost average and da 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 da. And just make so much of what I'd learned make sense, but you have to be doing it for it to make sense. You can't just learn all the terms, like until
Mhm.
you've got some skin in the game and actually see the stocks move and how performance changes over time, and
Mhm.
then play with your own risk tolerance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that super, super helpful.
Yeah, and I think what something else that helps people too is I used to think investing was just individual stock picking. Like I'm like, oh, I have to find out which company is going to be the next Apple or Microsoft or Google or Meta or whatever. I'm like, but how do we know which one's going to be the next one? But this was, I think, my biggest aha moment with investing is that there are funds, like index funds or ETFs based on where you're living, that just have all the best companies in there that track like the top 500 companies in the US or all the best companies, like the top companies globally or whatever. You could do international. And so with one click, instead of me trying to buy all the best companies one at a time, I could buy a basket that just has them all in there that has historically done really well. And so like this term that I'm bringing up, it's depending on where you're at, like you're in the UK, so you have a lot more ETFs that are available for you, which stands for exchange traded funds. In the US, we have index funds and ETFs. So just these little things were like, oh, it could be so simple. I could buy the best companies with one click instead of me trying to figure out which ones are the best companies.
Yeah, that's it. So you don't need to be an expert in who's performing well at this time and be
Um,
constantly staying up to date with that. But
because
actually,
who
you can
has time
just
for
go with
that?
the, yeah, you can go with the tried and trusted, what's been working for the longest.
Yeah, exactly. Because especially as, I mean, your audience are entrepreneurs, they're busy. A lot of them are working moms. Like, we don't have time to sit. And that's the difference between like active investing, where you're trying to day trade and like chase these crazy returns, versus like a passive investor who's
Mm,
more buying the funds, simple like that. So if you're listening to this part and you're like starting to think, oh man, this is getting a little over my head, like this is maybe just the part that you just have to like wherever the terms that you're getting stuck on, just like put it into Google, literally put it into ChatGPT, be like, explain this to me like I'm 12. What did she say in this podcast episode?
yeah,
Make it work for me. Like,
yeah.
um,
Go to the things that you know already reliably work rather
yeah,
than like when you're comfortable with those, then you can play with more risk if you want to. But there's
exactly.
ones that are tried and trusted that have been working
Yeah,
since the dawn of time.
yep, exactly. Good.
So when it comes to business owners,
Mm.
are there ways that you think that they should think differently about investing compared to someone that's in a 9 to 5?
That's a great question. I would just start with a lot of business owners. Like, I work with business owners all the time, and a lot of them don't even know that there are options for them to invest as business owners or how to do that. And so you'll see business owners running their businesses for 10, 15 years, and I'm like, oh, when can you retire? It's like, oh, I don't know. I just reinvested everything back into my business. I never put money away for my future. So I think that as a business owner, one thing is like I mean, whether you're in a 9 to 5 or as a business owner, but it's just paying yourself first. It's like you get paid from your clients, maybe putting away like 200, $500 or pounds or whatever per month into an investment account uh, before you're paying like for things for your business, you know? And so it's like putting that up as a priority, I think would be really powerful for a lot of business owners. And it's very simple. Like if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't even know how to do that, just know that it's very simple to set that up. Like it would take us 5 minutes to sit down and set that up. So don't let the I don't know how keep you from being like, oh, I can't make you think you can't do that. So I would say as a business,
Yeah, yeah,
it's still powerful to be investing and it's really simple to automate no matter because I think that's the difference is in a 9 to 5 a lot of the times it's done for you. You can just like your employer be like, hey, do you want to enroll in our employee
yeah,
account? And you're like, yep, that's it, and it's done. For you, you just have to set it
yeah.
on your own. Like that's a difference right there.
Yeah, yeah. I know when I started my first corporate job, thankfully my manager got me started on that because I wouldn't have had a clue how to do it.
Yeah.
And that was it. There was a little bit that was deducted pre-tax that went into something that I couldn't touch. That after, I think it was on a 4 year scheme. So if I left after the 4 years, I would get it back at full, whatever the rate was at the time. But it couldn't go lower than the amount that I'd invested. But if I
Yeah.
left before that 4 years came up, I just got the money back that I'd invested. So it was like a win-win, basically. It was either like a savings account that I couldn't access, which for me, living
Mhm.
the London life was great, the money that I couldn't touch, which also massively helped me for saving for travels. But for all the money that had already reached its term, this was just a great fluke thing. Just as I quit the company to go traveling, the company got bought out, so the stock price went through the roof just as I was getting my shares back. I was like, woohoo!
Oh, that's lucky.
Very
Nice.
lucky. For me that didn't understand anything about stocks and shares, and given that it was my manager or his advice every year, he was looking at me like, I cannot believe this has worked out so well for you.
We'll take it. I had something similar happen with a manager of mine. Like the women, I was on a team of all women in my recruiting job, and none of them knew anything about finance at the time. And I was like, "Oh, what do we do?" Like when we could enroll, and everyone's like, "I have no idea." So I like leaned into my manager, and this is just kind of telling is like men are talking about this a little bit more, and he's like, "Well, I don't know everything, but this is what I'm doing." So I just kind of like copied what he was doing at the time, and then when I looked back on it later, I was like, whoa, he actually was doing it right once I like learned on my own too. So that's funny that you had a similar experience. But
Yeah,
this set like show that it's so important for like us as women to learn this. And I do think that that's
exactly.
changing. Like I feel more and more women are getting into money and just like I want to emphasize like it's cool. Like it's
Yeah,
talking about money, like it's sexy. And so like
absolutely. Because when I first started in entrepreneurship, I still had and like this is a little bit of the British mindset of how rude it is to talk about money and like
ah,
it's classless and we don't talk about money. Just a
mm,
real shame if you did that. Like it was so unclassy. And I realized that now that was just a way of keeping that conversation out of a lot of people's mouths. Because
Exactly.
when I first came into the entrepreneurship space, I was super early. I was like earning like my first 1 or 2K a month, just being full time, but not yet seeing the cash flow from it, and seeing people talk about what they were making. And my initial thoughts were, that's not true. That
Yeah.
no,
Ooh.
you can't earn what was my corporate sales, and like I had a good salary in sales, and I was like, that's not possible to do in a month because my brain did not see how that could be possible in a month. But the more that I followed those people, and the more that I saw what they were doing, I because initially I had that like, no, that can't be true, only because in my world up until that point, I didn't understand how it could be true. But the
Mm-hmm.
longer I spent around it, and the more I saw people talking about it, and I saw people who shared qualities that I had, I was like, okay, well, even if I'm not loving it, I've got a lot to learn. And also, if she can do it, so can I.
Exactly.
And it really shifted my perspective because then I wanted to see more of it because there weren't enough women talking about this. And I
Yeah.
shifted from, um, oh, this is rubbing me up the wrong way to like, I wish more people actually, it wouldn't rub me up the wrong way if actually this was normalized. If
Mm-hmm.
everyone was doing this and everybody just talked about money and it wasn't this big taboo subject and it shouldn't be, then I wouldn't have these feelings about this. And if we want everyone to thrive and if we want more people, like I'm the same as you, I want more women to have the ability to make as much as they want, and to build a life of, financial freedom, geographic freedom, time freedom, energetic freedom. And so you need money to have those things, which means you need to understand money. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it really, really shifted my perspective. And the more women I saw talking about it unapologetically, I was like, yes, and I want to see more of this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly. And
yeah,
then if you're digging into like, being like having some shame around money, it's like who profits off of you saying like I'm bad with money or not wanting or staying quiet around money or not asking because especially if I mean it doesn't matter whether you're a 9 to 5 or a business owner, when you talk about money, you could figure out maybe you're being underpaid, or you can see like what a brand is paying another creator if creators are
yeah.
talking about what they're making. And I had a similar moment as you is in my space in the finance space when I was getting started, one of the women posted that she had a $40,000 month. And I was like, $40,000 a month. It literally blew my mind. I was like, oh, that's possible. And then,
Mm,
and so I think that that's, you just have to hear these things. And it's not like, um, and try to like normalize them in your mind. Like our shared business coach, what caught my attention was a video she did in 2023 where she was like, $10,000 months aren't a lot of months. I was like, who's this lady saying 10,000 a big month? And then I was like, but what do I gain from thinking that, putting that amount of money on a pedestal, being like, this is like unattainable versus like, oh yeah, maybe I should adopt a similar mindset. Where could that lead me? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
Very interesting. 'Cause I know some of that polarizing content initially can give you a little bit of a spike of just like, how could she say that? And then
Yeah,
when you sit with it, you're like, God, like how the rest of society is conditioned to play it safe. And actually, if we all understood how much more is possible, and this isn't just about money, this is about how people go after their goals and chase what doesn't seem logical or doesn't seem possible in a want to make it possible and a belief that anything can be possible.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Which is, I think, probably similar. I mean, I'm guessing your work is similar to mine. One of the first steps that I do when I'm working with women is like I dig into a little bit of their money stories and their blocks and like how they grew up with money because we don't even realize that we have some subconscious blocks around money. And for example, if you grew up in a household saying money is bad or rich people are bad, and then you go to try to build wealth, you're not going to hold on to it because
Mm,
subconsciously you're thinking if I have money, I'm bad. So we have to
yeah,
like poke into that block a little bit and then align you with how do you want to be feeling about money? Like what are the thoughts you want to start having around it? Like I am wealthy, I'm meant to have wealth. And I think one of my big reframes was the more money I have, the more good I get to do. The more money I
yeah,
have, like the more people around my life get to benefit or in my life get to benefit. I think like just trying to rewire those help.
yeah,
I think as women, we are also taught. like again, there's like a lot of shame around money. You go see a guy buy a Rolex or take a weekend golf trip with his friends and nobody even bats an eye with the sec, but it's like women have to hide our purchases and things like that. Or you buy a purse, they're like, oh, she's frivolous. And it's like we don't even realize, but that's how a lot of society, views money
Yeah,
men versus women. So it's kind of I talk
absolutely.
about this in my master class I just ran. I'm like, a rich woman is someone who you might not be wealthy just yet in your bank account, like you're pre-rich, but you know you're meant to be wealthy, and you don't apologize for wanting to build wealth because you know
Yeah,
that you're going to build is going to do a lot of good. So,
yeah, exactly. And I think that point where about how men and women get it differently and how they use it and the expectations of how people use it, because
hmm
women are the caregiver, the nurturer, the one that looks after other people, it's almost seen as selfish for a woman to hold on to her money and build wealth because she's expected to look after other people with it. So
that's
there's
it.
this societal expectation that you'll give it away.
hmm
Um, and one of the early books that I read that really like helped shape how I feel and see this is there's a woman called Rachel Rogers, she's the Hello
hmm
Seven founder, and her book We Should All Be Millionaires, which I highly recommend everybody go read and listen. I was listening to that, and she was saying when she was at the start of her entrepreneurial journey, how much she wanted to be in her community and like do charity work and help the homeless and like really make a difference. But she really came to see how and wow, and lobby government and make real not just local change but national and governmental change. And she really saw how you can't make change at that level without having money.
Yeah,
There's a line that she said in the book that said, you cannot change the world if you are broke.
exactly.
And that was
Yep.
like a slap around the face. I was like, oh, because
hmm
she's like, if you are serious about the change that you want to make, you need money to be able to make that change, to get in the spaces where the room, those level of rooms where those conversations are being had. If you want to make a real global difference or a real, noticeable change in your community, you need money behind you. So it's your duty to make as much money as possible to impact the
hmm
level of change you want to have. I was like,
Exactly.
woo, okay.
I mean, I saw that quote too, and I was like, yep. It's like when you're good people have more money, their good is only amplified. And
Yeah.
like when historically we reinvest so much more into like our communities, into education and into things that actually like matter and heal a lot more
Yes.
than the guys do. So
Yes.
I can go into why we should have a matriarchy society, but
Yes.
it's all like money is power at the end of the day. And so the more you have, the more power you can, yeah, you get to have.
Exactly. What's something? So this is another question for business owners. Um, how do you see the balance or split between how they're investing within the business, so like on coaching, for example, versus investing externally? Do you have
hmm
a split that you use for that, or?
I don't have a split, and I think every season of your business is like there's just different seasons of your business. So sometimes you need to invest in a coach that helps you scale. Like you, like you're like, okay, I've gotten to this point and I need to get it to this next area. Like that's a good investment on yourself too. So there's just, I think that for me, what helps is I have like my minimum amount. Like I'm, no matter what's going on in my business, I'm investing $1,300 a month. No matter what, like that's my default. So I can have like a lower month, like that is the amount. But if I have a bigger month, I'm not doing as much investment into my business. I'm investing a lot more into the stock market. But then there's like that's when I'm like building up. I personally have like a business emergency fund or a business savings account. So if I get to a point in my business where I'm needing some support, I've already got the cash that is for that specific purpose to invest in that coach or invest in that program that's like going to help me get unstuck. So I don't know
Mhm.
that I have a split, but I do have like my bare, that's where you'd work with a coach of like, okay, as long as I'm doing this per month, I'm good. And then that
Yeah.
frees up any extra money to be putting towards other things. But I always say like, well, I mean, like invest in yourself. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. Everyone who's listening, I think understand the value of that. And then also just that money is energy. And sometimes that
Yeah.
money takes the form of education or motivation or a plan. So that's also an investment too, even if it's not like monetary,
Yeah.
like buying stocks or something like that. So yeah.
I love that. So you have your, not a split per se, but you have your, this is the absolute minimum we're doing, and that's a non-negotiable, and everything else is
I
bonus.
have a non-negotiable, but there are months where I just have a really big income month in my business and I'll invest like 10, even 15K in one month. And like that's crazy. Even like saying that. But then there's other months, where I have my bare like this past like last year, we and I were talking before we hopped on this, and I had a full send year. I traveled all over in 2025. I
Full
did.
send year. I love that.
And I took my mom to Africa, which I'd love to talk about. Is like money is being able to do things like that. And so I spent a ton of money on travel. And so I didn't get to invest as much. But for me, like that investment in that the experiences was so worth it. And then also I
Yeah.
just want to say like the power of investing too is I wasn't really working too much in August. So I had a lower income month, but my investments made me over $20,000 in the month of August alone. And I was gone
Wow.
in Africa with my mom, like, and it was on a safari. And I was just looking at my investment account, like, damn, like this is why I'm doing like this piece here. Yeah.
Amazing. And that
But
really goes to show how there's no uh late date to start, but as early as you can, the better, because I
yeah,
know yours has really been, I want to front stack as much as possible so that
it
I can
has
retire
been.
early.
Yeah.
And that's been really interesting watching your journey, like as you'll share the graphs of like, right, I input this amount and here's what my money, like the money my money has made. Like I
Mm-hmm.
input this amount and here what look at the curve that it's doing on its own from compound interest now. I
Yep,
love when you
exactly.
share that stuff because it shows where you've showed things in the past where you've said how your first six figures invested will be the hardest, but after
Mm-hmm.
that, the length of time it takes to get each new set of six figures invested massively decreases because
Mm-hmm.
of how it all compounds and seeing the gaps get shorter and shorter and shorter between every next set of six figures.
Yep.
Like it really, and like the monthly breakdown, how many months each one took. And that's a
Yep.
huge difference. We're not talking like tiny little differences. It was massive. So I can see why it makes so much sense to like really get going on that journey for that first 100K invested because future you benefits so much more when you do.
Yeah, exactly. That's like one of the core things. I'm like, let's get you out of debt. Let's build up your foundation. But then the first goal I tell all my clients to go hard to hit is that first 100K because if you hit that, even if you, and this is across all your accounts combined, you're basically guaranteed to be a millionaire, even if you never invest another dollar in about 30, 35 years based off of that compounding that's going to happen. So you can think of like every 100K that you get after that as like another million you're going to have in your lifetime. And there's some years that the market just pops off. Like the past 3 year, years the market's been on fire. So those like in betweens, like I went from like 400 to 500K invested in like 4 months because the
Yeah.
market was insane one year. And I was like, it like blew my mind. But it's possible, And I think that that's the
Yeah.
thing is like a few years of focus can really just like set your finances up so heavy. So I'm a big, yeah, front loader is what I like to get my investment.
Yeah. That and
Um,
that's where even if the market the market fluctuates and there's going to be things that happen,
yes,
crashes and rises and falls, but when you've got your, like in your case, your non-negotiable, I'm doing this every month regardless,
yeah,
then you're protected for all the rise and the fall. Like it's like the sea, isn't it? The waves are going to come and they're going to go, but
yep,
you're invested and that is going to carry on growing regardless. And then you
yeah,
get all the
exactly.
benefits of the peaks, and you're steady in the storm when there's a trough.
Yeah, and I think that you're touching on a good thing is like, of course, the market doesn't just go up, 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 but I actually like when there's a pullback in the market, I don't freak out. I think your emotions as an investor is really powerful and knowing that's a long-term game because when the market pulls back or there's a crash, which is going to be more, it's actually a really powerful time to invest more in the market because your money's going a lot further. So if you're following,
Mm.
always like market's on sale, who's buying the dip? And like this happened in April of last year with especially in the US with the tariffs, the market like fell a ton in
Yeah,
April.
yeah.
And I was like, all right, it's annoying and it's like a little bit
Wasn't that
nervous
like the single biggest crash like day in ages or something
in
like
a while,
that?
like 2020 maybe. And so I was just like, all right, this is really annoying. But I just put more money in and then the market came right back up. During COVID, the market crashed by about 30% in a matter of weeks, but it returned 5 months later. So what people forget is
Yeah,
when there's a pullback, when the market returns, it can come up really fast. And so,
yeah,
um, if you're only investing when it feels good to invest, when the market's high, you're not getting those average returns. The averages are made when you're also investing when the market's down. So whenever there's
yeah,
markets, I'm like, huh, do I have a little bit of extra cash I can just throw in right now? You know?
yeah. I'm
So
trying to think of a relatable thing. So if people are brand new to this, Thinking of like Bali, the surfers out there will go out regardless of the weather. I mean, it's
Mhm.
mostly sunny, but it's that thing of you don't know when the next best wave is going to come, but you need to paddle out regardless and just be committed to, I'm going to catch a wave today.
Yeah.
You might get a few crappy ones, you might get an awesome one straight away. You don't know when the good waves are going to come, but just be committed to going out and paddling.
Yeah, I had a client and she was just, this was maybe about a year ago. And she's like, Trump is president. I am not investing during his presidency. I was like, I think you're going to regret that. And she like stopped investing this time last year and the market went up like 16% last year. And she missed out on that because her emotions got the best of her, you know? And so it's like, we just don't know. Because even if there is a pullback, it might pull back, but off of what it's already gone up so high, you know? So it won't be like a, so I don't know. So it's just like,
Yeah.
there's just you have to think of whenever I get a little like kind of doom and gloom about like the future of I think about the kids. I'm like, look at all the kids who are in elementary school, middle school, whatever. They're gonna have there's gonna be a system in place. There's gonna be a future for them. Like it's not maybe not perfect right now, but we've survived every craziness that's happened historically.
Yeah.
Like as big as this feels right now, it's gonna work itself out. Like so.
Exactly. And even if you chose to invest in other markets like Europe or Asia, for example, they're still affected by what a world leader is doing elsewhere. So it's still
Mhm.
important to know, but I can appreciate her thought process, whilst also change is going to come. That's the
Yeah,
only
change is
consistent.
gonna come, and um, yeah. So I think you just have to believe. Like, I know it can be like hard. I mean, I'm in the U.S. Everywhere it's just so crazy, but you
Mm,
believe like, I mean, what investing is it's businesses that are making money. Apple's still gonna. There's gonna be businesses that are continue to make money. Like that's how the world operates. That's why there's
mm,
different sectors of the market. You have technology, you have financial services, you have all of these things, healthcare. Like even when one pulls back, another mark sector might go up. So that's why it's also nice to have like a nice diversified portfolio is
yeah,
money's gonna, depending on which sector, like for every
yeah,
thing in the world to crash, we have something massively bigger than any, and it's gonna affect everybody, like
yeah.
COVID or something like that, you know? And we
I feel
still,
like we've touched on this a little bit, but just to sort of wrap up that topic is for someone that is a human first person and wants to honor their values and do good in their community, and feels a little bit conflicted with how do I invest or how do I choose my investments and not allow certain companies or certain sectors to benefit from my money, and how do I feel good about making money in these sectors? What advice would you give to someone like that?
I have a couple of pieces of advice. So take what lands and leave what doesn't land. So there's different ways that you can invest. So for example, if you want to invest in companies that don't donate to like the NRA, the National Rifles Association for gun, could like whatever in the US, or if you don't want to invest in companies that invest in like fossil fuels or whatever it is, you can literally Google like index funds, companies that exclude this specific sector, if that helps.
Mm,
Um, Now, and that's like I work with a lot of like Muslim clients who don't want to invest in any companies that do any kind of alcohol like promotion. There's
mm,
like different things,
yeah.
and so you can build your portfolio based off of that. Now, where it gets a little sticky is there's something called ESG investing, which is environmental social governance, and people think, oh,
Mm,
I'm clean investing, like I'm investing with companies
mm,
that have renewable energy and all of these things. But unfortunately, the standards that a company can qualify themselves as ESG are very like low. So
ah,
like so you you can invest in companies that like are excluding certain like sectors that you want. There's like index funds and stuff that do that, ETFs that do that. But if you're just going based off of a company saying that they're ESG, it might barely even have like crossed the threshold of like what actually like they're still doing maybe a little bit of harm or something like that. So why I'm saying this is that um you can like at the end of the day, if you're not investing in these companies that it's like there people are still investing in these. My recommendation, and this is like my personal, is like I'm still investing, but I take my money that I'm making off of these companies and then I'm putting it into things that I actually like matter to me. Like for example,
yeah,
I'm donating to like families in Palestine because that's a big cause that I'm really like, that was really important to me, or different like women's groups, things like that.
yeah.
but I'm like profiting off of the businesses to give to the companies and the things that I actually want to give my money to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that landed or didn't land, but it's like people the do everyone's going to have their own values, but you have to be like, all right, I'm doing ESG investing, but like, what is the criteria for that? Because companies are still like
Mm.
and as like good companies to invest in when they're actually still doing harm. So
Okay.
I don't know. Did that make some
Yeah,
sense?
so essentially do your own research. That, even just that little Google tip of you can search what are the things that don't do this, that, and that. It will be really helpful
Yes.
because people go off and do their own research and see
Hmm.
is there a basket of funds or do they need to find their own individual things to get involved in. So yeah, based on your own values, pick the things that work for you.
And the company, like, because you can buy companies that are just women owned. Like, that's what makes
Mm.
investing fun. But sometimes when you pick us like a basket, you just have to pay attention to the fees. Because sometimes when people are putting together these companies, they're just going to charge a little bit more for you to have certain companies. So you just have to
Ah,
keep that in mind for your like long-term growth. So,
good tip. Thank you.
yeah, it's like it kind of goes back to people are like, oh, I don't want to invest because I don't believe in these companies. It's like you have to like get in the game to be able to change the game. You can't change it from the outside. You
100%.
have to get in, build your wealth, like get the power, and then you can go in and redistribute your resources and your money to the things that you actually like care about too. You know, so
Yes.
it's not like a perfect system that we have,
Yeah.
but the system that we're working in, and you can't change it if we don't have the resources to change it.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I might not
Love
have said
that.
it most like eloquently, but hopefully people got like the gist of it. And you can
Yeah.
always like again Google companies that align with my values or that don't have this or XYZ or build your own portfolio with the companies that you want.
Awesome. And so, what are coming into a couple mistakes and then we'll round things up, but what are the most common investing mistakes that you see people making?
Just like not just keep putting it off. I would
Not
say
even
like
starting.
starting, like just like you're working your asses off. Like I know I'm a business owner too. It's like your money should be working just as hard as you are. So if you're keeping a lot of money just sitting in cash on the sidelines, like that's a huge missed opportunity because what we don't talk about is like also the what sets you back is mismanaging your money. So
Mm,
mismanaging your money could be like not investing as much as you could be. So if you're in a 9 to 5, for example, say you're making like $100,000 or pounds a year, but you're only investing 3% when experts recommend to try to be investing 15 to 20%, that like is holding you back because we're mismanaging our money. We're not doing as much as if you have the capacity to do, of course, you got to like work your way up. Mismanaging
mm,
it could also be for people in the US, we have like credit cards with really high interest rates. So, like not paying them off on time or not having a clear debt payoff plan is keeping people in debt longer than they need to be, and it's causing them to like hold them back from building wealth. So there's like the cost of not only not starting, but also like taking like mismanaging your money.
yeah.
Other mistakes I see are being too conservative with your portfolio. Like I was working with a girl, she's 29 years old, and I was like, show me your portfolio. And it was like 60 or 70% bonds. Bonds are returning like 1 to 2%. They're like loans. When you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your early 50s, you're in your
Yeah.
wealth accumulation phase. When you get a little bit older, then you're in your wealth preservation phase. That's when we can get more bonds. But right now, it's like that should be such a small. So we like reallocated her portfolio to match her age, you know, and her risk
Mm,
tolerance. So that's something too is a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I'm a conservative investor." If you go to a financial advisor and you're like, "You don't know what that means." You go, "I'm conservative." Your financial advisor thinks you know what you want. So they're building your
mm,
portfolio really conservative even though you're young and you don't realize it and then you're not getting like the actual market returns. So
mm.
these are just like little things that come up, but yeah, not starting, and then I guess fees people pay, and then just like, yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
that's helpful. Just to get people, not to scare anyone, but just to get your mind going of like, oh, what could I look into for my
Yeah. Yeah. And in doing your research in this area, I have a good friend of mine, one of my best friends. She had some inheritance, and so she just hired a financial advisor. And I can't remember how she came across this woman. But it wasn't until she'd put all of this inheritance with this woman, trusted this person to look after it, that she looked at the fees and not knowing much about money, thought that 4% wasn't that much. And right, your face has just said it. I
Wow.
was like, 4% is loads. And also for the age that we are, 4% over time of what that money could do for you over
Massive.
30 years is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And
For people
so,
listening to this, a 1% fee is a lot. So 4% is
is
actually
yeah,
predatory.
if we're thinking what could the equivalent of that money, 4% of that total investment of what that could do. We talked about compound interest today. Even if you did nothing more, if there's a decent amount in there, that 4% over 30 years will be a huge fee. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, nice little cut for that woman that if my friend doesn't, that she's in the process of moving it. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
I was saying like 4% is absolutely huge. And so to be mindful of, a couple of percent here or there does make a huge difference. So yeah, for everyone here, be mindful of what the fees are. Don't just stick it in the first thing that you find. Have a look at the T's and C's.
And just on that note, it's like it's so powerful just to be aware of what's going on with your money as a woman, like
Mm,
relying on somebody else financially. Like you can have a partner that's amazing and everything too, but still have your own awareness of like what's going on with my own money at the end of the
yeah.
day.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
really good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those. So, bringing it to a close, if you could give women one investing principle to live by for the next 10 years, what would it be?
One,
That's a really big question.
well, I don't know, just do it. Just do it, but like again, if you need support getting started, there are more resources available now than there's ever been in history, which is
Yeah.
good in that it's like can be so simplified, but bad in that people get analysis paralysis of like, okay, I should take from this person or this person or this person, like what works best for me. So I would say if you're getting stuck, like you're getting kind of the way there, I guess what I'm saying is a lot of you have the right bits and pieces. You just need a plan that's like tailored to you and your life and your goals. That's when it might be good to like bring in a coach and just get another pair of eyes. But like whether you do that or not, it's just like get your money invested. Pages like mine are good. A really good beginner starter investing book I love is I Will Teach You to Be Rich. So it's like money 101 for anybody who's like,
Mm,
I start. Like that book is like one of my favorites. I think it's very easy to follow. Um, and continue talking about money.
yeah,
No, it's not investing, but
absolutely.
like specifically, but then you can start hearing like what are other people doing, what's worked for them, things like that.
Yeah,
Ask
I
your
love
question.
that. I
Yeah.
would add, and we touched on it earlier, but there's like do your own reading and do your own research, but at the same time, there's only so much reading that you can do. And sometimes, as was in the case of you, Haley, I'd already read loads of books, so new stuff, but just didn't know how to get started. And 5 minutes with someone that knows stuff can save you weeks, months, years.
Yeah.
And so know when the point to get on a call with someone, get your own coach, or come to Haley, join her program. Because if you're, there's only so much reading you can do. And there are really good books out there. I've loved The Psychology of Money.
Mhm.
There's a Tony Robbins one, Money Mastery, I think was really, really good. Um, but I mean, there's plenty out there, but when it comes to getting going, you actually have to do it. You can't just be well read about it.
And it's kind of like the difference of an advisor versus a coach is that advisor's going to take your money and they're not really educating. They're not helping you budget. They're not helping you really build a plan. They're just like, oh, you said you're medium conservative with your finances. I'll just invest your money for you. And they're not giving you the education. I'm
Mm,
the education. I'm a one-time fee. I'm going to teach you how to do everything on your own to help you avoid all those fees. So whether you work with an advisor or not in the future, you're going to know exactly what to look for, what to ask for, and all of
yeah,
like so that's like if you're like want and the last thing is like this is so much easier to learn than you probably even think. Like just like a few calls and you're gonna be like, oh wait, I got this shit down. And like that's
yeah.
fun. That's like my favorite thing is like seeing the light bulb go off on someone's mind. Like, dang, that's
Yeah,
it. That's all I had to do. I'm like, yep, that's it. Now let's get your money
yeah,
going. Yeah.
that's it. I think that's been a huge thing for me is realizing how much more is possible, how simple it is once you get going, and how much more just possibilities there are when we think about building financial freedom and not just the impact that that can have on you, but like your family, your friends, the people around you, whether it's taking people or
Mhm.
yourselves on holiday or the ways that you want to gift it. Like you just have so many more options when you take ownership of this thing.
Yep. We'll end on that. I
Thank
love
you
it.
so, so much, Haley. I've absolutely loved this. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with the She Scales audience. Is there any last thing you want to say, any parting ideas or things that you want to leave with people who are women, especially who are building their financial freedom and wanting to be the difference in the wealth gap?
But just that, again, we just have such a unique opportunity in history right now. We're all literally building these massive movements on our phones and on our laptops. And like, I think it's like the coolest thing. And you can literally build wealth and you can invest just from these tools. Like that has like not been a thing historically. So just take advantage of it. Realize that you're in a really unique moment that's really powerful and can like set your families up and yourself up for like long-term financial success and freedom. Yeah.
Whoop, 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 whoop. And we are here for that. We see a lot of language in the online space about be the change maker, be the trailblazer, be the generational change. And this is literally how you do it. You've got just with us two here, I teach sales. So it's one thing to learn how to make money, but to learn how to make your money make money and be able to invest that and keep money. We see a lot of people who can make a lot and then go broke and bankrupt because they didn't know how to manage their money well. So these are the skills of learning how to keep your money, make your money make money, and yeah, set yourself up for the long term, not just have a, super few high cash months and then, one thing goes to pot and you go to pot. This is about
Hmm.
building a long term, sustainable, manageable. We're not just going to have a few good months and then be done. We're building long term success.
Hmm. Amen.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Thank you so, so much, lovely. It's been an honor to have you. I'm so freaking excited to share this with the listeners. And for the rest of you listening, if you've got any questions, I'll pop Hayley's Insta underneath here so you can go find her. Hayley's Insta the best place to find you? Where
Yep.
where on socials?
Instagram is perfect. Yeah, Femme Financial Coaching. You can just search my name when they look at your followers, and I'll be right there.
Oh, wicked. I'll put all the description underneath. So go follow her on social media. Like her content is endlessly helpful. So no matter where you are on your investing journey, whether you're right at the beginning getting started or you're someone who you've got your first 6 figures invested and you're going towards 7 figures, there is always new things to learn and new shifts or new changes in the market or new things happening to stay on board. So yeah, thank you so much, Hayley. I've absolutely loved this. And for all the listeners, I shall see you inside the next episode. Toodaloo!